Welcome, everyone. I am Diana Ingram, and this is my first time, so please be patient. I am so very proud to be part of the worship team. Amazing group of people. I'm honored to be here. My discovery of the Unitarian Church, tripled over that, was either an example of wonderful serendipity or direct personal direction. Sometimes things are meant to be. Walking up this path and reading, and I hope you all do that on a regular basis, the wonderful sayings that we have as you walk up. Walking up and reading that and walking through these doors, to me, was life-changing. I want to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, California. I want to welcome everyone on our virtual campus. I want to welcome everyone here on our Alluvial Avenue Church campus. And I want to welcome everyone watching this service later on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or wherever they're watching. We are one congregation in many places. We pause and acknowledge that our Alluvial Avenue Church campus sits within the traditional homelands of the Yokuts people. The past, the present, and the future stewards. They are the past, the present, and the future stewards of this land. As Unitarian Universalist, we welcome you no matter your race, culture of origin, your age, your spiritual background, or your religious beliefs. We welcome you no matter your disabilities. I like this one, the amount of money in your bank account, your level of formal education, or your neurodiversity. As Unitarian Universalist, we not only open our doors to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, we value diversity of sexuality and gender and see it as a spiritual gift. You are welcome here, with or without documentation. All are welcome here. Our worship theme for the month of March is the path of vulnerability. I know that path. As Brene Brown says, vulnerability is the birthplace of love, of belonging, of joy, of courage, of empathy, and creativity. Pretty powerful stuff. If you are on our virtual campus and want your joys, sorrows, concerns, or gratitude included in today's service, just text them to us at 559-209-4977. But you do have to do it right now, so we have time to gather them to share later in the service. Be sure to text your name as well, so we know who you are. Now, since today begins the third week of our annual pledge drive, here's Tim with an update.
Good morning, everybody. So, as Diana said, we are beginning a third week of our annual pledge drive. For folks who are new or newish to the community and aren't sure what the annual pledge drive is, it's that wonderful time of the year where all members and friends make a financial commitment for the next fiscal year, sharing as they're able from their finances. This lets us know how much money to expect, and we create a budget based on the generosity that we know is going to come from members and friends. So if you have not yet submitted your pledge for this pledge drive, we hope you will do so. We also hope you will consider increasing your pledge from last year, if you were able to make a pledge last year, by 2%. If for some reason you don't have a pledge card, there are two ways to do that. You can get a pledge card from our pledge drive table out on our Alluvial Ave campus, right in the front entryway. Also, you can email pledge at uufresno.org. Pledge at uufresno.org. Now you can see that Diana is trembling with excitement, waiting to find out what our current total is. Normally we ask for a drum roll, but I don't see any drummers, so yep, you're going to have to do that. Our current pledge total is $382,886. Woo! This is another drum roll. 59.27% of our total. How much is still needed, you ask, Patty? I will tell you. We still need to raise in the next 2 weeks $263,113. So we hope you will make that pledge. Back to Diana.
I hope that you all donate. You do not realize, if you have been here as a member for a while, how wonderful this church is and what a part of saving a person or directing a person this church is. Yeah, you are all part of a ministry. So I hope you do deeply consider it. And that was not in script. Now in the chat box, in person or in the silence of your heart, let's take a moment to say Buenos dias, and let's greet one another.
And for our latecomers, buenos dias. Mi nombre es Timoteo, and my pronouns are he, him. Let us allow the gentle sound of the tingsha to carry us to that place within that is drier than our soggy Sunday here in the Central Valley.
It's been gonna be okay. It's been a long, long time since I've known the taste of freedom. Those clinging vines that have me bound, well, I don't need them. Oh, I've been like a captured eagle. You know, an eagle's born to fly. Now that I have won my freedom, like an eagle, I am eager for the sky. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Oh, and everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Oh, and everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Oh, and everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. Yes, I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Mitchell, and I'm a volunteer librarian in the Noralma Walker Youth Library. For those at home, if you have a candle or chalice with you on our virtual campus, please bring it close, as we'll be lighting it soon. But first, a few words about Women's History Month. Women's History Month is a celebration of women's contributions to history, culture, and society, and has been observed annually in the month of March in the United States since 1987. Women's History Month 2023 takes place from Wednesday, March 1st through Friday, March 31st. Women's History Month is a dedicated month to reflect on the often overlooked contributions of women to United States history. From Abigail Adams to Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth to Rosa Parks, the timeline of women's history milestones stretches back to the founding of America. I'd like to share with you some notable UU women. Olympia Brown was one of the first female ministers whose ordination was recognized by any religious denomination. Viola Gregg Liuzzo was a UU layperson and mother of 5 children who was passionate about racial justice issues. She traveled to Selma, Alabama to help. While transporting marchers in her car, she was shot and killed by members of the Klan. Today, she is remembered as a martyr for the civil rights movement. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was a prolific writer, lecturer, and reformer. She wrote many books of poetry and with strong anti-slavery themes, as well as a novel about African American life during Reconstruction. Watkins refused to give up her seat on a Philadelphia streetcar. When the conductor refused to take her money at the end of the ride, she threw it on the floor and left. In this time in the US of the handmaiden's tale insanity, both in the US and abroad, together with legislation that shocks the conscience of anyone with a brain, I am reminded of the extraordinary courage of the American suffragettes. Faced with ridicule and hatred by most of male society, they nevertheless persevered. Forced fed during a hunger strike using an iron contraption that ensured their mouths would stay open to receive food, they were known as the iron-jawed angels. We may face more vulnerability today in the US than we have for decades. But today, modern iron-jawed angels bite. They bite here in America and all over the world in spite of the consequences. We bite back, or we bit back, when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. And we aren't the only ones. Iranian women are angry and want to be treated as adults with the power to chart the course of their own lives. Some of them have died fighting for their rights. They face danger from poisoning and the morality police. Despite all that they have faced, they still will not back down. Let us all continue to fight back and bite until all of us know freedom and human rights. In that spirit, please light your chalice or candle at home. Reverend Tim, will you kindle the flame of our Alluvial Avenue chalice?
I will.
Let us rise now, embody your spirit, and join in singing the song of praise. Let it be a dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance.
as we say together our mission. La misión de la Iglesia Unitaria Universalista de Fresno es amar inclusivamente, crecer espiritualmente, servir con gratitud y trabajar por la justicia. The mission of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno is to love inclusively, grow spiritually, serve gratefully, and work for justice. Please be seated.
When the campus was built, I read an article in the Fresno Bee about the different things that, sustainable ways that the church was being built, and I was very impressed with that and with their general philosophy. And then, of course, the Black Lives Matter sign was a big draw as well. So a friend at work and I decided to come one Sunday. I liked everything that was said during the service. I loved when I parked in the parking lot and I walked up, the sign welcoming everybody, the community garden where the produce goes to help feed people who are hungry. Women have choices, their own choices over their bodies. Absolutely every little thing I hit from the parking lot into the sanctuary is what kept me here. I am extremely interested in being kind to everyone as well. I think it's the ultimate goal we should all have, and working together and loving each other for who we are and listening respectfully to each other. And sometimes the most unlovable people are the ones who need the most love. I like the principles that the church stands for, and that it's a community that's open to all ideas. I like that there are people who practice the Wiccan religion, and there's Native American religions. I like that there are people who are Buddhists here. We have a little bit of everything, and I love that, because that's the world, really, isn't it? It's important to give to the church financially because of all of the opportunities that you get here, supporting other people, all of the classes that are offered here that are just wonderful. We need to keep existing. This little oasis here in the Clovis and Fresno area is so important. I heard something recently, somebody said something along the lines of, whenever we compete, and whenever we're looking for a winner in life, we don't advance ourselves. But when we're all working together, we do advance ourselves. And we need to do that in a way that's caring and loving. That's the only way we can work together, so we can advance ourselves as a species, continue to evolve.
Thank you, Kim. So here we are, and I invite us to just take in a breath, a nice healing breath, imagining you're breathing in peace. We hold a moment, we breathe out love. And let's do that again, centering ourselves as we breathe in peace. We hold a moment, we breathe out love. One more time together. We breathe in peace. We hold a moment. We breathe out love. We continue breathing together in this sacred space that we make holy each week by our intention to be together, by our intention to be wholly human, which means we're a mixture of much beauty and also some broken places. That's what it means to be human. And as we breathe together, imagine that breath can carry you back over the last week, over the last 7 days of your living. In the last week, was there an instance where you felt vulnerable? In the last week, was there a moment when you touched your strength? And so we bring our vulnerability together with our strength, knowing our Vulnerability is our strength, and we carry this into our time of sharing. We create space for those who wish to share joys, sorrows, concerns, hopefully a few gratitudes. Some of us wrote them down on a small card and put it on the table as the entranceway to our Alluvial Avenue campus. Others of us texted them in to us from our virtual campus. And as we prepare to hear these, we also have one remembrance and two celebrations. Our remembrance is that Tuesday, March 7th, is the 58th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama. That horrible day in 1965 when Governor Wallace told the state troopers to stop 600 civil rights protesters and marchers and to stop them by whatever means possible. Do not let them cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which was named for a Confederate general and the Grand Marshal of the KKK. Hundreds were beaten by white state troopers and sheriff's deputies. The horrific brutality was captured by television cameras and broadcast to the nation that night, and it began the slow and ongoing changing of human hearts. This upcoming Wednesday, we have two important celebrations. The first celebration is Wednesday, March 8th. It is International Women's Day, celebrated around the world. The second celebration on March 8th is Holy Hinduism's Spring Festival of Color. It is an ancient Hindu tradition and also one of the most popular festivals in Hinduism. It celebrates the rebirth of spring and the divine love of the god Krishna. Also alive here, Claire T. is feeling a joy. She drove up to Manteca with friends and got to see a beautiful quilt and doll show yesterday. Vicky G. is grateful for a lovely lunch with Debbie on Friday. We found we have a common spiritual guidepost and had a nice meal. Lisa L. is joyful that Jamie has 1 month now celebrating as a non-smoker. Congratulations, Jamie. And believe it or not, Jamie's mom, Ida, on our virtual campus has a gratitude, love to family and friends, special gratitude for Vicky for our enjoyable recent travels. Live long and prosper, says Ida. Sharon V. is joyful and says, happy birthday to my husband, Wayne, who turns 60 this week. Happy birthday, Wayne. Bernadette Peace asks that you please send light and love her way as she continues to allow herself to be bravely vulnerable. It's a secret for now, says Bernadette. From Christina on our virtual campus, joy that President Carter is still with us, her concern that far too few of us gave him credit for his amazing talents. Leela is feeling gratitude, joy, and sorrow. My joy is a walk in the rain, making a new friend, and salsa dancing. My sorrow is that last Sunday I experienced a minor burn on my left arm as I lit a candle at home for the chalice lighting on the virtual campus. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm grateful I'm all right and that I'm healing, and let's all be careful on our virtual campus as we light those individual chalices. Last, certainly not least of all, Jenny has a sorrow for the passing of Judy Heumann, a pioneering disabilities right advocate. She led the 1977 civil disobedience sit-ins that led to the enforcement of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. This required any entity that took federal funding to allow people with disabilities equal access to services. She was profiled in the 2020 documentary Crip Camp, A Human History of the Decades-Long Fight for Civil Rights for Disabled People. We remember Judy Heumann. This morning, we also remember our beloveds, those members and friends who cannot be with us because of issues of health or mobility. And even if you don't know these folks, you are connected to them in spirit. And so we lift up the names of Tony E., Margaret H., Bev F., Edith H., William H., Glenda R., and Pat M. And so, for all that has been mentioned, for all that we hold in the sacred silence of our own hearts, for those grieving hearts today, we light our candle of community. We light a second candle. This burns for the 6.9 million citizens of this world who have lost their lives in the pandemic. In the light of these candles, in the light of our love, let us join our voices in our call to meditation led by Tina. Comfort me, consuélame.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Our words of prayer and reflection come from Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Leslie Takahashi. Reverend Takahashi identifies as a multi-race person of Japanese American descent, and she recently has begun writing about that identity. In this words of reflection, Reverend Takahashi uses the word prayer. I acknowledge for some of us that word has great meaning. For others of us, it's a word that carries religious baggage from our past. So we honor both experiences and understandings of the word prayer. And if prayer isn't your word, just imagine a word that is. Let us pray. This is a prayer for when words fail, for when they are not big enough or small enough to slip into the little cracks left in our hearts by life's unbearable pressures. This is a prayer for when the biggest noun cannot know the enormity of joy, or when the most active verb is paralyzed in the face of grief unuttered, horror undescribed, and loss beyond accounting. This is a prayer for when words, precious emblems though they are, cannot take into their embrace the hugeness of experience or the many tangles of complexity and confusion. This is a prayer for all who have known the large void of hope, which is trauma. This is a prayer for wounded hearts and bodies, for those whom we ought to always remember and sometimes choose to forget. This is a prayer that begins with gratitude for what we can understand and know, and ends with humility, which reminds us that not all is ours to do. This is a prayer for those times when words fail and all that is left is the yes and the no of it all, and our ability to let the chord of the breath lead us from this moment into the next. This is a prayer for all who have been lost, that in our memory they might be found. May we be the ones to make it so. Blessed be. Amen.
What wondrous love is this, O my soul, O my soul? What wondrous love is this, O my soul? What wondrous love is this that gives my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, when I was sinking down, when I was sinking down beneath my sorrow's crown, friends to me gathered round, oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end I will sing.
Wow. That fill your soul? Hello again. I'm still Diana Ingram, and I'm a new member of the worship team, and so proud and happy to be here. Am I okay? Yeah. And may I say, I'd like to get to know you if I could. I'd like to get to know you if I would. I'd like to get to know you if I should. I'd like to get to know you, know you, know you. Now, what you just heard, and actually I really apologize to your ears, is a gentle lead into my reflection. You see, I used to be a really good singer. It was my identity. It was something that I knew how to do well. It was something that I knew made people feel joy, and that made me feel joy. I would sing anywhere I could. I sang in plays, I sang in concerts, I sang at fundraisers, I sang at funerals, I sang and I sang and I sang and I sang. It was a big part of my life. It was. Then about a decade ago, I had to have surgery to have some polyps moved from my throat. And the surgery did not go as well as it had been planned. And the price for that was that I really can no longer sing, and my speaking voice is different than it was. And you hate to admit the vanity of saying that it was nice to have something that I could take some pride in. And I did feel it was ripped away from me, and that was a very hard thing for me to deal with. So my singing just then to you, let me tell you what it was doing. I can't feel more vulnerable anymore than when I sing. So I am laying myself bare, trusting you, and all the words I'm about to say are me bearing my soul and trusting you. I'm making myself vulnerable. I do this because over my life, which is getting longer and longer, I have learned some lessons. And one of them is to get to know someone, to really understand someone. You have to open up yourself, and you have to let yourself be seen, even if it's scary. Even if you're worried how you'll be received, the only way is to open yourself and be bare. Now I hope that you'll all snuggle in your chair and go with me on a journey back in time, my time. It all started when I found a way to survive by becoming a turtle. A turtle. As a young child who is by nature vulnerable and needing care and protection, I lived a very difficult life. I was harmed, hurt, damaged by those people in my family who should have cared for me. To survive, I built that turtle shell to try and hide within myself. I tried to lessen the pain and the fear. The shell sadly worked both ways, keeping things in and starving those things beyond its hardened exterior. The turtle creeps along and years pass. And then I find myself, barely 17, laying in a hospital bed, preparing to have my first child. I was surrounded by the cool white sterility of the room, and I was really, really tired after 33 hours of labor. Well, I just couldn't hide from it. The turtle shell was not doing me a bit of good there at all. Another nurse came in to check on me, and I said to her in rather a naive fashion, "I have decided I'm just not going to have the baby." The nurse laughed too, and she said, "Honey, you can't stop it. You are not in control of this show. Your baby is. You've just got to roll with it." How many times in your life have you heard those words? You've just got to roll with it. I heard it a lot. My turtle shell was just not protecting me. Suddenly, there was a new life in my arms. How could this beautiful baby have come from me? It was amazing. I looked into his blue eyes and held his little vulnerable hand. And a wave of emotion filled me that I was not familiar with. And I could feel, I could feel the shell just breaking around me. I knew that I needed to love and protect him. I knew I wanted him to have a different life than I had had. And to do so meant I had to let myself out. And I knew that that meant that I had to open doors that I had strived for 15, 16 years to keep shut. I don't remember before a year. Somehow that moment was a real turning point to me. A new radar had become present in me. I started to seek out those who were the most vulnerable, those who were in the most need of love. And I was shocked when the more I gave, the more I laid myself open, the more I received. It helped me grow. I was drawn to hospice work. I was a volunteer for over 25 years. I cared for children with special needs, working in a mental hospital with severely handicapped children. I led an Alzheimer's support group for 28 years. I started a jail ministry. I really started putting myself out there, open, at risk. It was as if I connected with people in a whole new way. To serve the vulnerable, I needed to allow myself to be vulnerable. Even my writing, which is really one of my true loves, could only exist by allowing my mind to be vulnerable. Yes, even now, here at this Unitarian Universalist church, I have begun to make a new home because I allowed myself, in a very vulnerable time of my life, to walk in these doors and open my heart to receive. When I was young, I thought that my strength was to be found in that turtle shell, just to keep the hurt out. It was only when I was filled with love and I began to lay myself bare that my life began to grow, to be vulnerable. If only we all allowed ourselves to be honestly present in that state. If people from all countries would allow themselves to be vulnerable and they were able to see each other's vulnerability, then we could see each other's humanity. And in that, there is great strength.
I invite us to rise, embody your spirit, and let's sing Lean on Me.
Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on each other when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on each other when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Lean on me, call me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Please be seated. vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness, it's our greatest measure of courage. Will you join with me and say this? Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. So says educator and author Brené Brown. The late Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Robbie Walsh, spoke about courage, strength, and vulnerability in this true story about his hiking in northwest India. Reverend Robbie Walsh remembers, "I was hiking from a high mountain saddle above Dharamshala. A rain shower passed, and the old stone path became slippery. I slipped and fell. I hit my cheekbone on the rock, and I cut my thumb on the sharp edge of another rock. It hurt, and I was afraid. Afraid that I might have broken something. Afraid I might get some awful infection from the wound. My climbing companion came quickly and sat with me until I got over the shock and was able to stand. We started down the trail again. I discovered that my tired knees were even more rubbery than before my fall, and I was so afraid of just falling again. I knew I needed some help. I said, 'May I lean on you as we walk?' My friend said, 'Of course.' I put my hand on his shoulder and leaned on him as we walked the rest of the way back down the mountain to the town. It's not an easy thing to ask for help," says Reverend Robbie Walsh. "I was taking pride in my ability to get up and down that mountain on my own 2 feet. My self-reliance had usually worked for me, but in that moment, I surrendered it. And my companion gave me his shoulder to lean on, just like it says in all those songs." Reverend Walsh continued, "If one day you should stumble along life's path and injure yourself, and you may be sure that you will, listen for the rhythms of a deeper support than just what you hear from within. There are currents, tides, rhythms of creativity, often expressed through the kindness of others, that can hold us up, heal our spiritual wounds, and move us to wherever we are called to go." We often think of vulnerability as a choice we make to allow ourselves to be seen in all our imperfect and messy humanness, or to protect ourselves and stay hidden away like the turtle that you talked about. To remain self-reliant during times of pain, loss, or disappointment, or to reach out so we need not be alone. To maintain our illusion of control over unwanted circumstances, or to admit that there are situations beyond our control that we just have to learn how to inhabit. To hear another person's story and feel empathy and compassion, or to turn away. We often think of vulnerability as a choice we make. To be vulnerable is to ask, in the words of American Tibetan Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron, "Can I stay present to the ache of loss or disappointment in its many forms and let it open me?" But poet David White suggests another way to understand and experience vulnerability. He suggests that being vulnerable isn't something we choose to be, but it's something we already are. Being vulnerable isn't something we choose to be. Being vulnerable is something we already are. Poet David White writes, "Vulnerability is not a choice. Vulnerability is the underlying, ever-present, and abiding undercurrent of our natural state. To run from vulnerability is to run from the essence of our nature. The attempt to be invulnerable is the vain attempt to become something we are not, and most especially to close off our understanding of the grief of others. More seriously," says David White, "in refusing our vulnerability, we refuse the help needed at every turn of our existence and immobilize the essential title and conversational foundations of our identity." David White continues, "To have a temporary, isolated sense of power over all events and circumstances is a lovely, illusionary privilege, and perhaps the prime and most beautifully constructed conceit of being human, and especially of being youthfully human. But it is a privilege that must be surrendered with that same youth, with ill health, with accident, with the loss of loved ones who do not share our untouchable powers, powers eventually and most emphatically given up as we approach our last breath. The only choice we have as we mature is how we inhabit our vulnerability, how we become larger and more courageous and more compassionate through our intimacy with disappearance. Our choice is to inhabit vulnerability as generous citizens of loss, robust and fooly, or conversely, as misers and complainers, reluctant and fearful, always at the gates of existence, but never bravely and completely attempting to enter, never wanting to risk ourselves, never walking fully through the door. Now, I'm going to say that again, that last paragraph, because there's a lot to it. It's very full. The only choice we have as we mature is how we inhabit our vulnerability. How we become larger and more courageous and more compassionate through our intimacy with disappearance. Our choice is to inhabit vulnerability as generous citizens of loss, robustly and fully. Or, conversely, as misers and complainers, reluctant and fearful, always at the gates of existence, but never bravely and completely attempting to enter, never wanting to risk ourselves, never walking fully through the door. One of my favorite authors, Rachel Naomi Remen, who is an internationally recognized medical reformer and educator, has a 70-year personal history with chronic illness, having been diagnosed with Crohn's disease at age 15. In her heart-filled book, Kitchen Table Wisdom, I'm just wondering, who's read Kitchen Table Wisdom? Okay, some of us. So in this book, Dr. Naomi Remen says, she tells of a chance encounter on an airplane out of San Francisco that offered multiple opportunities to inhabit vulnerability, hers and another's. Rachel Naomi Remen remembers. Airports, even familiar airports, are very difficult to negotiate alone when you have lost a great deal of your eyesight, as I have. Boarding a recent flight out of San Francisco, I sank into my seat with relief and belted myself in. I was seated on the aisle. The window seat was occupied by an elegant older man, and there was an empty seat between us. Looking to escape the tension of walking through that airport for the past half hour, I put my purse on the middle seat and took out a murder mystery and began to read. When lunch was served an hour later, I was deeply engrossed, the book inches from my nose. We were given a salad, a bagel, and a pint container of yogurt. Continuing to read, I tucked into my plate until my seatmates gasped in dismay. Turning my head slightly, I saw that he had upset his full container of yogurt on the floor, spilling it onto his shoes, the rug, and part of his overnight bag. He was looking out the window and just kept looking out the window. I waited for him to take some action to clean up the mess. Nothing happened. Looking down again, I saw that he was slowly drawing back his right foot, the shoe covered with the yogurt, until it was almost hidden under the seat. I could now see his left foot clearly. His ankle was swollen, and a metal brace emerged from his shoe. His left leg was paralyzed. Now, the seatbelt sign was still on, so no getting up. I reached up and rang for the flight attendant. No one responded. Sometimes later, when the drink cart arrived, I indicated the floor and asked the stewardess for a wet towel. Before I could say anything more, she went ballistic. "There are over 452 people on this plane," she snapped. "I'm doing the best I can. You'll just have to wait." Her defensiveness baffled me. We looked at each other in silence. Then I realized that it had not occurred to her that I wanted to be a participant. "If you bring me a wet towel, I'll be able to get that up," I said quietly. She hesitated, and I wondered if she'd heard. Then she raised her eyebrows, turned on her heel, and then came back with a towel. After the cart had passed, I looked again at my seatmate. He continued to look fixedly out the window, ignoring me, ignoring the mess, his left foot motionless, his right hidden under that seat. I took a risk and spoke. "I used to love to fly," I said, "but I find it difficult now." I told him that in the past few years I have had trouble seeing. Still looking outside the window, he told me that 8 months ago he had suffered a stroke, and now he had no feeling in either of his arms from his fingertips to his elbow, hence the spilled cup of yogurt. Yet he had flown halfway across the country to spend some time in the home of his son. He was speaking in almost a whisper, and I had to lean toward him to hear. "Since my stroke, I'm incontinent," he said. "I have to wear a diaper." I marveled at the choreography of this chance seating arrangement. "I have an ileostomy," I said. He turned to look at me and asked what that was. And I explained that my large intestine had been surgically removed 30 years ago, and that I wear a plastic appliance attached to the side of my abdomen to collect my partly digested food. I added, "Even after 30 years, I'm concerned that it may leak especially on a plane. After a moment, we smiled at each other. Then he looked at the towel I was holding, and I looked down at his feet. As we talked, I noticed he had brought his right foot out from under the seat. "May I asked, motioning with the towel. Kneeling, I began to wipe his shoes. To run from vulnerability is to run from the essence of our nature. The attempt to become invulnerable is the attempt to become something we are not, and especially to close off our understanding of the grief of others. More seriously, in refusing our vulnerability, we refuse the help needed at every turn of our existence. My dear ones, we have a choice in how we inhabit vulnerability, our own and someone else's. Así sea, bendito sea. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.
When your day is long and the night is yours alone. When you're sure you've had enough of this life, hang on. Don't let yourself go. 'Cause everybody cries, and everybody hurts. Sometimes everything is wrong. Now it's time to sing along. When your day is night, hold on, feel like letting go. If you think you've had too much of this life, hang on. 'Cause everybody hurts. Take comfort in your friends. Everybody hurts. Don't throw your hand. Oh no. in this life, and the days and nights are long. When you think you've had too much of this life to hang on. Well, everybody hurts sometimes, and everybody cries. Everybody hurts sometimes. And everybody hurts sometimes. So hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on. Everybody hurts. Hold
Hola. Buenos días. Mi nombre es Chloe Emily. My name is Chloe Emily. My pronouns are she, they, and I serve in the role of communications coordinator here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno. I'm also fortunate enough to now serve as the Director of Communications at the UU congregation of Rockville, Maryland, where I now live. However, I'm very excited to be visiting here with you all this week. Now, as some of you might already know, I had the opportunity to grow into my faith here at UU Fresno through our youth religious exploration programming. What started as visiting this church one weekend with my mom quickly turned into part of our normal weekly routine. That was about 11 years ago now. As a high school student, I was introduced to national Unitarian Universalism organizations, communities, friends, now colleagues, and the possibility of what has now brought my career into my life. Now, this was all thanks to the contributions of time, talent, and yes, money, of the members and friends here at UU Fresno. The volunteers, some of which who are here today, who willingly took a group of rowdy teenagers to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk to give us opportunities to connect outside of the church campus. The parents and guardians, a lot of which are here today, who dedicated their Sundays, and let's be totally honest, a whole lot more than just the Sundays, to give their youth a chance at real connection, at real chances to be vulnerable with each other. My hope, our hope, is to offer the next generation of young people those same opportunities and blessings that I was fortunate enough to receive from this very community. And right now, there are children currently in our classrooms and in our nurseries who visit this campus each week as part of their weekly routine. It's a responsibility of ours to ensure that this church can be there for them next week, next month, and next year. In that spirit of giving, of vulnerability, of opportunity, let us join our voices in our call of offering, which will appear on the screen. If not us, then who? If not open hearts, then what? If not now, then when? If not here, then where? If not generously, then how? If not us, then who? In a moment, you will see a slide showing how you can make a financial contribution right now on our virtual campus, or if you are here on our Alluvial Avenue campus, you can always drop cash or check into the basket on your way out of the sanctuary. Or you can share generously right this moment by using Cash App. Just send your contribution to $UU Fresno. Spelling it out for you, that is $UUFRESNO. The morning offering will now be gratefully received. May this church continue to be worthy of the many forms of your gifts.
Well, I'm still Diana, and we're all still friends, right? It is my wish that your spirit is full of hope and love and peace, and that you now see the value of vulnerability more clearly in a new light. I'm afraid that I wear my vulnerability on my sleeve, but it is a good fit for me. It lets in a lot of warmth, a lot of growth, a lot of sunshine, and a lot of love. As we prepare to end our service and enter into our afternoon vulnerably, please join us in our chalice and extinguishing words led by Karen and Troy.
Extinguimos esta llama, pero no la luz de la verdad, el calor de comunidad o el fuego de nuestro compromiso. Estos los llevaremos en el corazón. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts.
Now, Tim, I am sensing you may have some reminders for us.
How did you know?
It just-
But first, the first time is we're supposed to. Associate Diana. And it's always wonderful to welcome Leslie at the piano and Tina, vocals. Very, very fast. To exit the sanctuary, if you want to get wet, we're going to allow our socially distanced folks to leave first, and then the rest of you can head out. But we are going to have coffee hour, as our slide says, but we're going to do it inside because it's monsoon weather outside. So the coffee, I heard it rolled in, so you can get your caffeine and good company. There will be a question and answer table with a member of our Board of Trustees. So if you're new or newish and you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, go to that table. There should be a sign on it that says question and answers. To let you know, this Tuesday we have a special workshop, Living Well, Dying Well. It's at 10 a.m. in the sanctuary and on Zoom, so you can do it either way. Wendell Stevenson of the Final Exit Network will be offering an exploration of the desire to die with dignity. Final Exit Network is an extraordinary organization, and as Unitarian Universalists, we always have stood for the right to hasten one's death if you are terminally ill and die with dignity. So that's Tuesday. This Saturday at 1 p.m., we have a celebration of life for longtime and beloved pillar of the church, Al Goodman. We do have a tradition. We like to welcome folks who are here for the first, second, or third time. We do it not to embarrass you, but we are genuinely glad on a soggy Sunday you chose to be with us. So if this is your first, second, or third time and you're feeling brave enough, could you just rise for a moment and let us know you're here? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I invite the rest of the congregation to rise with them. let's either join hands for our closing words if you came in a pod, or just place your hands over your heart, and then we will sing together. Our closing words come from Reverend Scott Taylor. As we go, may we remember that we were never meant to make it through this life alone. Vulnerability is a doorway, friends. Those wounded and tender pieces of ourselves help us return to each other. What seems wounded or unworthy, when shared, becomes our strength. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. Let's sing.